Hey, everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Wealth Live with myself and Jim Nazinski. We look forward to connecting with everybody on this podcast and talking about financial issues and things that open up your eyes, both from a science and perspective when it comes to wealth. Today, we're looking forward to talking with Joanne Giardini-Russell, owner of Giardini Medicare. We're in open enrollment right now, and really a very time-sensitive topic. So we're looking forward to having you on the show. You specialize in transitioning people to Medicare without mistakes. I mean, to just put it very succinctly, that's what you do. And it seems to me sometimes that people don't really know what Medicare really kind of is, when to apply, what the rules are, right? It's kind of like this thing that's out there that just seems very scary. So maybe we can start there. Talk a little bit about kind of, what open enrollment means and just the basics of Medicare.
The word that catches my mind when you just say that is scary. And it's scary. It's psychological. It's all these things wrapped in one. You got TV commercials. You got blitzes out there. You got Joe Namath on TV telling you everything's just hunky dory and free. It's a weird product. So anybody 65 years old, even that's listening or close to 65, all of a sudden you start paying attention to that because it's open enrollment. But if you're not 65, totally ignore the TV, ignore the commercials. It's the funniest thing. We have people calling that are turning 65 next year. They don't even qualify for Medicare yet. And they're tuned into the word and they're making phone calls and panicking. So don't panic, and that's a lot of what we do. So we kind of break down the panic stage for people. And, when you're approaching 65, just make a phone call, just what do I need to do, if anything? If you approach Medicare in a logical fashion, it works out just fine. But Medicare, your question is, what is it? It's just health insurance. It is only health insurance, but it's offered by the government. So that kind of freaks people out, and it makes it overwhelming and scary. And I get it. It can be, but just kind of back up. It's health insurance. You're eligible typically at 65 years old. So then you just got to find out, do you need it? Do you want it? How do you go get it? How much does it cost? Things like that. So that's what we help people do, is transitioning, like you said, to get there the proper manner so you don't kind of screw up, truly make some big mistakes.
Yeah, and I'd like to bring up early on that working with a professional doesn't add to cost. And I think that isn't clear either. So there's no downside to having a guide through that decision-making process, like working with someone like you. And I think that's important for people to know.
It's a huge enhancement. I did a session last night and I talk about that because the cost is the same, whether you call a carrier directly or if you call an agent, it's the same price. And I will absolutely guarantee that if you call a giant carrier and you try and call back the person that enrolled you a year later for some help, you will never find that person again. So you're much better off getting a good agent that really is going to be committed to helping you over the years, not just this season and today, but truly the next 5 years. If you've got all sorts of issues as they can unfold, it is a really big deal. So great point, Jim.
What does a mistake look like, Joanne? Or what are the top 2 or 3 mistakes that people make?
Top number one mistake is they enroll in Medicare just because they think they should. So that is a huge mistake. I had somebody recently that he'd been enrolled in the system, a high net worth person, and Medicare. I'll just talk about that for 2 seconds. Is basically it's based on income. So a lot of people don't understand the cost of Medicare. So if you're a high net worth person, you're going to pay more than others do. So this person in particular had been in the system, he and his wife, for 6 years on Medicare. And I said, well, can I ask why you did this at age 65? Because now he's just retiring at 71. And he said, I don't know. And when you factor out the dollars, he's healthy. He had great insurance at work. They blew 60 grand. I mean, so if that's just not a mistake right there was no reason for them to go get Medicare at all. So a lot of people just do it because, I read or I heard or my friend said or somebody said they should do it. Doesn't make any sense. So that's a huge mistake. Second biggest mistake is that they don't understand the product types when they're presented with Medicare. So when you do get to Medicare, you really need to make your product selection because it's super important. Because if you mismanage that and come back 4 years later after a cancer diagnosis, you cannot have the product of your choice because pre-existing conditions do come into play. So that is a huge mistake people make very, very often. So those are the two biggest ones.
Yeah.
That's, we could talk for 4 hours on just those two things. But I would say if people take that out of this, huge waste if you don't know why you're enrolling into the system. And if you don't do it properly, you can make a mistake on pre-existing conditions that you'll never get, that can never be fixed, potentially. How's that for scary?
That's pretty scary.
Yeah. So at what point or what age should they start to tune in and make a phone call to a professional?
Yeah, so two parts. That answer is always number one. I think at age 63, they come to Jim and they start talking about income streams and things like that, because then he's talking about how Medicare pricing is going to affect you. Because we've worked with Jim, he knows, he gets it. It's based on income. So if you're going to sell your business, how do you exit that properly so you don't get hammered on the Medicare side? How do you do different things? That's his role. So all we do is tell people when they get there how much it's going to cost, but we can't fix things ahead of time like he can even fix things. So one answer is 63, start dealing with people like Jim to kind of get the basics. You don't have to learn a ton, just know that your income's going to affect things. But then the next phase is 64 and a half. Get to somebody like us that just says, here's what you do need to do. Here's what you don't need to do. Do you do an HSA? All those little mechanical things, just so they're okay. And large 50% of those people that we talk to don't need us at 65, but they just need to know they're not screwing up. Then they come back when they're 68 or 70 or whenever they decide to retire. Then we re-engage. And then, they just have that guide, like Jim mentioned, you just have a guide to kind of poke, emails to and say, hey, I'm doing this now. Does this impact anything? Nope. See you later.
Yeah.
And contacting you at 64 and a half is important. Like you say, particularly if someone's going to continue to work so that they don't do something they don't need to do, which is sign up generally and lose the opportunity then to participate in a health savings account, which is such a powerful savings tool. It's another discussion, but the point is people don't know what they don't know and they just go with the flow. And it's not overly complicated. They just need to know. So that call at 64 and a half to you is important. Yeah.
We ask a dozen questions and we can assess somebody in 10 minutes, what they need to do, what they should need to do. We make our notes and we'll come back and see you later.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do wrong things. The HSA, there's all those intersections and they just need a third party. And sometimes advisors don't know the answer, and that's okay. Just find someone you can refer to that you can get an answer, because you really mess up by not bringing the conversation up. And these are really long-term, sometimes these considerations. If you mess up a cancer policy thing for the next 20 years, that's gobs of money. And then it's also the ability, you're locking out the person's ability to get the best care potentially, right? Or go to doctors of their choice, or, there's more psychological component connected to all that too. So on the surface, it seems pretty easy, like it's just a little insurance policy, but it's really a big deal because it's so, it's your health. It's tied to your health, and that's you can't put a price on some of that stuff.
Yeah,
as you know.
Joanne, you mentioned one little item, and if we'll just take a quick cul-de-sac and visit that item, and it's the idea of how much do you pay for Medicare? And there's multiple layers to that, but one part of Medicare, the amount you pay is a function of what your income was 2 years prior.
Yep.
And you coach people well to say, if you're working at 63 and you make a ton of money and then you retire at 65, your premiums are based not on your new low income because you're retired, but on your old higher income.
Yep.
And that a missed opportunity, you reference that, is to be able to file for an appeal on that.
Yep.
And we just helped a client do this this year. They retired at the very beginning of the year, and we filled out the form for them, and they signed it and they sent it in. And he actually called and said, hey, I didn't actually believe this would work, but they agreed, and I'm saving a couple $1,000s over the course of the year, which for some people that's a lot of money. For many it isn't, but the point was it's meaningful. It was easy for them. We made it easy. You make it easy for your clients, I know. And people just don't know that. They're just unaware.
Right. They don't know that they can file a form, and some people have said, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. I lived through those 2 years of overpaying. I didn't have to, so there's two parts to that too. Yeah. Some things you can appeal and request the redetermination. Other things you can't. I had a guy that he took a buyout at age 64 and a half or 65, and it was a 5-year annuity. And he looked and he's like, had I known how it would impact my Medicare for all those years, I never would have picked that strategy. That's a big mistake. And that's something where the Medicare person can give just basic information to the advisor so you guys can do a better job. So we're just that piece of specialization. Just our little niche is helping with that piece. We just do the one thing. So for us, this is kind of easy in some ways, but to the outside world, it is complex. When I realize how much we know, it blows my mind sometimes. But we just stay in our lane too, to give those things back to to make you look good and do a better job for everybody. So, again, I always go back to, I say it's not rocket science. We have to know we do a good job on our system and how we deliver things, but it's just somebody making that first call. But again, remember that my space is so marketing based, right? It's attacking the 65-year-old. It's, one of my clients called today and said someone from a carrier called and said, hey, I talked to you before. She had never talked to this person again. So they have all sorts of routines to try and get you to do things that are backwards. And there's a susceptible age. They just are. They've never had to pick all their insurance before. They've had HR say, hey, do you want door A or door B for your coverage? Which one do you want? You pick A. Oh, cool. If you make a mistake, so what? You go back and pick B next year, right? It doesn't really hurt you, impact you like this stuff does. So it's difficult. And some people just say, why am I having to deal with this stuff when I'm 65 or 68? This is ridiculous. It's backwards. It's hard. So there's a lot to it.
And the I've found, without naming specific plans, the ones that are marketed the most seem to often be the ones that my clients would fit best for, which is backward, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's backward. It's marketing. It's all the stuff you see on TV. It's, right now there's I wrote an article about the whole, would you buy a plan from Joe Namath? And it's all designed, that stuff is specifically designed for dual eligible people, which is Medicaid/Medicare. So most of your clients are not Medicaid/Medicare. So, but all of our common clients are seeing commercials like, what am I missing out? I want free dental. I want this. I had a guy yesterday, he's $6.6 million net worth. He tells me, and he wants to know how to get onto Medicaid to get free dental from a plan. Like, you've got to be kidding, so it's fantastic marketing. So it's marketing. It's just marketing designed to make you do the wrong thing, and somebody's making a lot of money and you're hurt by it. That's what happens. So
people need to start thinking about this at 63, talk with a professional at 64 and a half. And then if they continue to work, they need to talk again before they leave their company to retire or leave their job. They need to contact you as well.
Right.
But even then, it's not a set it, forget it. So what should people be thinking about when it comes to Medicare on an ongoing and annual basis?
Yeah. So we tell people, 2 months before you're going to retire, give us the heads up. We'll tell you how to go get your Part B activated. We'll walk you through the process. How much is it going to cost? What do I need to do? So you put all that together. Now, our philosophy is putting people into good plans that you don't have to be babysitting. So it's not a set it and forget it, but you also don't want to be churning and moving. And you have to remember that pre-existing conditions do come into play. So whenever you want to make a move, we got to go through underwriting, and are you going to qualify? It's not our gig. It's trying to just jump from hoop to hoop. So you want to be careful. You're not just price shopping. You want to be cautious about what carrier you pick, which is our job, right? We can analyze the carriers. We know the history, things like that. There's a couple carriers we just won't work with because of how they do rate increases at some point. So the last thing you want to do is be stuck in a plan that you can't get out of and your rates go up $50 a month. That's not pleasant. So the one thing we do manage actively is drug plans. So we make an effort to our clients. So look, if you work with us and you have a Medigap plan and a drug plan, we'll babysit you and deal with the drug plans from here on out. A lot of agents just disappear after that because it's a tedious thing. But we're always checking back in with our clients. So that's just a really big deal to do because things change and you've got to be watching what changes. Your medications can change, your doctors can change, things like that. So it's not set it and forget it, but I don't want it to be like it's an overwhelming chore either. So because people block that out. If it sounds too overwhelming, they'll just tune you out completely. So we make it kind of fun, actually. We do a lot of automation, a lot of emails, and just kind of enjoy. Our customers become our friends, so it's kind of cute. But, we just talk to them like they're average people. It's pretty fun.
Joanne, I'm confused about something for the average person who is confused, who doesn't pick up the phone because they don't even know the questions to ask. They don't know, they feel like there's so much content coming at them. They just go the easy route of just getting it off their plate and off their checklist.
Yep.
So with so many confusing ads for people, it's almost like an SAT question. You don't know, how to kind of answer it. And so your pride takes over and you just do what you think you do quickly and you're done. And I would imagine that that's a majority of the people. And so what are like some simple things that people need to be asking, or something that will move them to action with a different level of consciousness?
Yeah, fantastic question, because it's exactly that. You don't know what questions to ask. You don't know where to start. People ask, can they do this online by themselves? Yes. Problem is, what do you put in the search bar on Medicare.com? It's a great site, but you don't know what to ask. So we start with the mechanics of, the first question is, do you need it? As basic as that is, do you need it? Just because you're turning 65 doesn't mean you have to go get Medicare. Mm-hmm. And people think you have to go get Part A, you have to get Part B, or there's penalty, there's lightning bolts are coming out of the sky. It's not true. So first assessment is, hey, do I need the coverage? If you have coverage elsewhere, chances are pretty good you don't need it. If you work for a small employer under 20, there's some loopholes, so you got to be careful. But generically, if you have other coverage, you don't need Medicare. The second thing is, when you do need Medicare, then you start understanding what it is. Don't get too far ahead of yourself either. We've got our YouTube channel is really designed to break down the philosophy of enrolling into it at 65 if you need it, or rolling in later if you don't need it. So it's a very tough thing to put on autopilot, because we've tried to design even a flow chart, if you will. It's just not that simple. So hate to say it, but you do need kind of a good agent that can guide you through in a non-pushy manner and not soliciting and all that kind of stuff. And that's the hardest part too, right? Is finding that. It's difficult. So I don't have a great logic flow chart for you, but I would just say.
What I hear you saying though is that the first part of the flow chart is, no matter what, just pick up the phone and call an agent.
Yeah.
That will kind of start to get you down.
Call an agent that knows Medicare too. So health insurance people, like Jim's profession, so many people have life and health licenses. He could actually write a Medicare product. He could do that technically by law with a license. So same kind of health insurance agent. Just because they write health insurance does not mean they do Medicare. So we've got somebody on our team that just does health insurance for under 65. Now, not any of us Medicare people touch health insurance. So it's kind of acknowledging that it actually is a specialty and a true niche. It's not just go find something off the shelf, because you can get hurt so much in so many ways. So
that really is the big takeaway. Be referred to a Medicare specialist. Call them early. Yeah. There's no downside to doing so, but obtain a referral, because there's many places to go wrong with those who aren't specialists in it.
Ask your financial planner, because and I will tell you that I've done seminars in the old days of being live, but I would ask groups of 70 and 100 people, who thinks of their financial professional as a resource for Medicare? Never has a hand gone up, ever. And I think that's wrong, because Jim is dealing with their whole bucket of wealth and everything that you guys are all doing. And Medicare is a huge piece of that. So it's very wrong that they're not thinking of you for that. So make them think of you for that. Give them the reason to get that phone call into you, to your office. Yeah,
we should have a podcast or something about it.
You should.
Hi, Joanne.
It's just I just don't know why people don't think like that. They trust you for everything else, but a lot of them will say, "Well, I never thought of calling so and so." It's just weird, And I know Jim does a great proactive job with this piece, but and we've met, so it's like he's got a comfort level, which is good. But interview some people to get that comfort level. My kids fight over who gets to work with Jim's clients. I got Allie and Cameron like, no, Jim's mine, that kind of thing. That's a great relationship because then we're there to guard his client too. And the good thing for him is his clients aren't going elsewhere, getting sold annuities or long-term care or things that they don't want or need because we don't do any of that garbage.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's garbage product. I don't mean that, but we're just not selling them other stuff. We're staying in our lane. We do a good job and then we leave. So, find a way for your people to be calling you for that kind of stuff because it's that important.
Yeah. I think mentorship is so important. And I think you can never have enough mentors and guides who are guiding you along the way. And this is one that people need to kind of add to their list, right? People know they need, or many people know, I should say people know, many people kind of are in the know that they need an attorney, an accountant, a financial planner, a wealth advisor. They're not necessarily thinking Medicare consultant, business coach, right? Like that's kind of like, that's in the next, on the next shelf.
Well, and think of how backwards that is, right? Yeah. So if there's one product that affects every single 65-year-old person in our land, every 100% of them, if you make it to age 65, you have to decide something related to Medicare.
Yeah.
Not everybody needs, right, an attorney necessarily. Not everybody needs an X, blah, blah, blah. It's fascinating because you've got a product that 100% of people have to deal with, and it's kind of an afterthought.
Yeah.
So weird.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, yeah, go ahead, Jim.
No, yes. So summarizing, 63, call, 64 and a half, call, going to retire and you're over 65, call. Then you've got your coverage. You've got Medicare, you've got the supplemental insurance, you've got the program in place. We talked about it's not set it and forget it. Then give us a prescription for checking in. How often, when, and how?
Every year. So we set our clients up and we send them starting in August. Hey, get ready here, do these 5 things, get your portal ready, make a 15-minute phone call, and we check in. It's kind of fun. It's an annual check-in. Then you just tune the TV out, but call us during, if you need things during the year, absolutely get with us, but they don't need to. It's a lot of just training them of what to do. And then we also, I will say with our clients, we make them a little bit self-sufficient. We don't want to do everything for them. We want them to understand what they did, why they did. So they've got a little bit of, input and things, and it works out great. We're trying to teach people all the time. Here's how to use your Medicare portal. So we don't have to do everything for you. It's not a good relationship either. That gets a little too much, but it's not as overwhelming as people make it seem. It really, really isn't. So
someone's circumstances could change or the coverage could change. Yeah. You have some great stories. I'd love to hear a crazy one if you have one in your pocket, but I know that if your medication changes, that could change which prescription plan fits you best. Or the plan itself could change even though your medications didn't, and costs can go way up or way down. And that check-in can be worth thousands over the course of a year.
That's our drug plan check-in. So my doctor guy today just said, I like the Kroger pharmacy guy now, and he's become my friend and all this, and it's a good plan. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter what this year brings. Next year is totally different. So he ran his drug plan, like an $8,000 swing. Like, see, that's why we look at this. So you can still use Kroger and still use your new buddy over there, but you just need a different drug plan. So we insert that drug plan. That's
$8,000. $8,000 difference. Yeah. Because by paying attention. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's because I made him check in too. He's like, it's good. It's good. No, it's not good. Let's talk this through for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's what you need to push them to do. But that's really the only thing. Now, during the year, if we have a carrier with a rate increase, we're going to come to you guys. We're going to tell you what's going on. We try and get carriers that aren't going to do that. If we get kind of an oops here and there, we'll tell you about it. But we just sort of train them just like only the check-in is the drug plan. That's really only thing you want to do.
Right. I love it.
Like you said, there's more mistakes made in the entrance there. I had a guy. So if you want a horror story, we were brought in from a case, he's 74-year-old, I think, out east. And he was a super high net worth, 10, 20, 30 million person. And he decided that Medicare was just too costly. I'm not paying $500 a month. Okay. I'll show you system. So he went and bought, he and his wife, just an individual marketplace plan. Unbelievable. This is like the worst story we've ever seen. And then she had a hip replacement, and then COVID hit and they wanted to go, convalesce elsewhere. The long story. He ended up paying $50,000 checks Now he wants Medicare. And now they're going to penalize. Now he can't have it for another year. It's like, that's a story that had we talked to that person at 64 and a half, he wouldn't have done any of that stuff.
It's so important. Yeah, you all of your stories, I love what you're talking about. Echo the preparation, being proactive, being preventative, and getting in front of things and educating. And so I love that we're talking about this because it'll raise awareness. Ready for a quick, a 60-second speed round, Joanne?
Yeah.
All right.
You threw me on this last time. I'm not good with that.
Yeah. Well, hey, you've been on the show before, so you should have come prepared.
I get to try again. I didn't know what was happening. Okay.
One piece of advice you'd give somebody graduating college today.
Oh, go into the insurance business. Go into Medicare. It's solid for the next 15 years.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's it? Oh, that was my advice. That's it.
A favorite book and why?
Oh, I can't remember the one I just started. I read too many books that I read like 40 pages and I'm bored. So I don't know.
All right. Last question. Best piece of wisdom you ever received?
Oh, be kind. Seriously, be kind.
More important today than ever before. And tell everybody, obviously we've talked about it, but tell everybody your ideal client and how they can connect with you.
Our ideal client is 64 and a half. They just want to do things right. They just want to guide. We're happy to help those people. They can call our main number, 248-871-7756. We appreciate just a good, smart person that wants to, go down the path with us too. And we're happy to take you along.
I love it.
And no cost. No, it doesn't cost them anything. Yeah.
Jim has to read a disclaimer now, Joanne, which is, just compliance.
That's compliance.
Compliance? Yeah. Jim has compliance. We don't have compliance.
Yes, I do. So Jim Niedzinski, I am a registered investment advisor who offers investment advisory services through Motive Wealth Advisors. DBA of True Independence Asset Management, a registered investment advisor with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Any material discussed is intended for informational purposes only, should not be construed as legal or tax advice, and is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified attorney or tax advisor. This information is not an offer or a solicitation to buy or sell securities. The information contained may have been compiled from third-party sources and is believed to be reliable. Joanne, thank you for joining us. You're terrific, and you do good work in the world.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was great. I appreciate you being on the show, and Jim is always fun, and Joanne, always great seeing you and fun talking with you as well.
Likewise, you guys are a riot.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for everything.
Take care.
Ciao.